Hello there. So you think the London ULEZ concept is an isolated UK thing, do you? Well, it isn't. Many people in London are against the imposition of an ultra-low emission zone that will, in the end, tax the movement of all vehicles, let alone the way in which it's being expanded. And on top of that, opposition to these types of zones and the much-pushed 20-minute neighbourhoods across the rest of the UK is mounting, with the latest being in the small Norfolk town of Thetford. But these are not isolated to the UK. As I've talked about before, there is an organisation called C40 Cities, of which the London Mayor Sadiq Khan is the current chairman. Now, London is one of the now near 100 cities that are members of this organisation. And Macron's Paris is also a member of C40 Cities and also has a ULEZ-style programme in place, and it's been there since 2021. They call it a ZFE, or low emission zone. And that nation of protesters, France, could well kick off now that their government is beginning to push these ZFEs on more of the French people. And they're rolling out and expanding ZFEs in 11 towns across the country, including Paris. In fact, according to urbanaccessregulations.eu, Paris is due to basically ban all diesel vehicles from its ZFEs between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday to Friday from January the 1st next year. Then by 2030, between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m, no petrol or diesel vehicles will be allowed at all. And if you can't drive your non-compliant truck or car into that area between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m, then owning one becomes a bit pointless, doesn't it? Which one supposes is the whole point of it. Now that's less than 7 years away. 7 years to get all truckers and drivers to buy and run non-petrol and diesel vehicles, or else they'll have to shut up shop or leave the area. 7 years to get the relevant infrastructure in place to replace a petrol and diesel-based Paris economy. Now, France is seen as being behind the power curve on this issue and is possibly pushing to make up for lost time, but at such a rate that it is upsetting those that cannot afford electric cars or cannot afford to pay ZFE charges to use their vehicles, and that's probably most of them. Sound familiar? And the main complaint, it seems, is that the French government is going far too fast, something that will turn the ZFEs into huge exclusion zones, probably then into ghost towns. Now, much of this is based on estimates of those affected by air pollution to justify it all, but I can find no definitive studies for the claims on this in either the UK or France. Now, as the French government has let this issue slide, they're not in the position of trying to boil the electoral frog like the UK government is trying to do. They're going to have to force this on their people quite quickly, and the change might be enough to kick off fresh yellow vest protests. And as we know, the French are not ones to keep their feelings under cover and stay tight-lipped. Now, in the same vein, in the UK we have these 15-minute neighbourhoods springing up, and also plans for many more of them in the pipeline. And one supposes that the eventual aim is for tens of thousands of these little pockets across the country, where people feel no need to travel outside of their little area because all the things they need are supplied within them. And that if you do need to travel by car to get something, you'll have a sufficient number of travel credits to achieve that. Or they claim public transport will spring up from somewhere to fill the gap. So you'll be able to travel in your own car from your allocated area through the camera-monitored border to the next street, maybe 100 times a year. More than sufficient, is the argument. So what happens if you need to regularly visit elderly friends and relatives a few miles away, or you're a regular keep fit type and you don't have a gym in your little state-controlled bubble? What if you work 2 zones away? And the answer will, of course, be use public transport, buy a bicycle, work from home, visit the elderly in hospital via Zoom, and run to the gym. Now, the very reason that cars are so popular is because on a personal basis they are so much more convenient, efficient and comfortable than public transport and bicycles. Otherwise, car use would never have taken off in the first place, would it? Anyway, from what I've seen so far, these little neighbourhoods are all built around those that either like imposing a control grid on us, or those that love living within a control grid. And it's also telling that while the French are gearing up to protest against these things, here in the UK we stand by fuming and watching a few people gluing themselves to the roads protesting for more of it. Now, how's this for coming full circle? Back in the early 20th century, paper was being recycled to make new books. But by the 1960s, chopping down trees to make paper was considered as bad for the environment. And one of the drives became the paperless office. And now we find that the server farms that support the paperless office take up huge amounts of energy. Then there's paper bags, where we turned to Swedish engineer Sten Gustaf Thulin's invention, the plastic carrier bag replete with handles. No need to chop trees down for bags, planet saved. But now I see that Tesco is putting its clothes washing tablets in cardboard containers so as to save the planet from plastic. And more people will no doubt be turning to paper bags again. Now, cardboard can be recycled 5 to 7 times, but more trees will now need to be felled to feed this new, renewed industry. Now to Lineker and the BBC. Strange that after Lineker and co did all they can to bring down BBC Match of the Day last night, we actually saw the programme gain an unexpected 500,000 extra viewers to take it to 2.5 million. Despite it being stripped back to 20 minutes of highlights with no commentary or punditry from the obscenely paid likes of Gary Lineker. And of course, some viewers liked it and others did not. But it won't bother most people one way or the other, because like me, most people never watch it. Richard.
Shares in banks collapsing? Banks themselves collapsing? Oh, financial turmoil. Oh, I say, this could lead to a complete financial collapse and then result in a single centralised worldwide digital currency and ID cards or ID chips. Oh, and don't forget the bail-in when the savers will find all of their hard-earned life savings and cash is gone. Well, by the looks of all this, what can you make of it? What can you say? Well, you could say it could be a very good time to be a Christian. Yes, I suppose there is a Christian lilt to this video, but hey-ho, free speech and all that. I mean, why would Christians be getting all excited about a global financial collapse, digital IDs and central bank digital currencies? Well, my friend, for the same reason as Christians should be getting excited about the entire earth being deceived by pharmaceutical products, everyone being forced to go vegetarian, an increase in global earthquakes, a unified form of information exchange like the internet, a one world government, people loving themselves, you know what I'm on about, that vanity thing that seems to be all over social media. Yes, a rainbow agenda, a disruption of wheat and oil production, and a global pandemic, yes, to name but a few. Oh, and if the generally accepted biblical fig tree generation interpretation is correct, then all these things will happen within the lifetime of someone born around 1947 to 1948. Now, I know you're thinking, what on earth are you on about, Richard? And so you say, so why would Christians get so excited about such a convergence of catastrophic events? Well, such events happening in and around the same time are predicted in the Bible and signify the end times, which is a great outcome for Christians. Yeah, I know how crazy all this sounds to most of you. I'm not unaware of how mad I sound. I don't care. The probability of all the aforementioned disasters coinciding is pretty slim, so nothing to worry about, my non-Christian friends, because thank goodness we are not seeing any of those signs that I mentioned earlier. No. Oh, wait. Anyway, have you noticed a similarity between the end-time signs of the Bible and current world events? Or do you think the statistically impossible convergence of specific events predicted in the Bible and current world events are coincidental? Have your say in the comments section. I look forward to reading them. And we will see you again tomorrow at 5:45 at this place, where you can get your daily dose of Jeff and I.